share. Let's go. So what we want to do is, I wanted to open this and start talking about, it's chapter 17. So what we'd like to do is to work with user interfaces. So the way we need to work with user interfaces actually means we're going to be doing something with events. So this is called event-driven programming. So this event-driven programming means that the code is not going to be executed until there is an event that occurred. What event? When I clicked on a button, when a form appeared, when the window appeared, when a window disappeared. So there's an event, something should happen. So I am going to program now, not just put a code that is going to be run all the time. It's going to be run only when some event happens. The event can be a mouse click, or a keyboard that was pushed, a keyboard key, a key that was pushed, or a window that disappeared. Or there's a lot of different different events that can happen. Well, we're going to be starting slowly by showing just a few simple ones, and then we're going to see there's actually a lot of different kind of events that we can program. But the main idea is that before we just put the code in the main and everything is run once. Now we're just going to be executing only those that are going to be based on some event that is fired by something, an action. So that's why we're going to be talking about something called listeners. Listeners, they just listen for an event. If an event happens, okay, then they enter into action to do something. So this is what we mean with those listeners. So we're going to be talking also about different components. So the user interface has different components, and each component have a lot of different properties, and so we're going to see these things gradually. I'm just telling you some of the words that we're going to be doing. The exception, we're going to be talking about them also later on. So generally this is what happens, is that when a component that you have, example a button on the screen, when you click on it, there's an event that happens. Either you clicked on it, or something happened to that button, the text has changed, or something happened to that button, the size of the button changed, or something. So these are all types of events. When there's an event, there should be a listener, some code that is listening, waiting for that event to happen. When it happens, then it does something. So that's the main idea behind that event-driven programming. So now I just would like to jump right away to some kind of a simple application. So this is like this program. First of all, let's have a look at it and we'll try it. So in this application, look that we are doing two things. We're importing the JFrame and the JButton. The JFrame is the window. The JButton is a button that you can click on it. And when you click on it, something should happen. And then in that class, we define this width and height as final, which means cannot be inherited? No. Final in a class means the class cannot be inherited. But the final in a variable means it cannot be changed. So it's a constant. Now it is static. Why? Because of the need it is used here. So you see this is used here. We don't really need this, but just this is like somewhere when you can use that. This is in the main. You can see this is the main. This is just the class, and this is the main. So in that main, we'll talk about this later, okay? Just forget about it for now. Let's just look at what's inside the main. Inside the main, I am creating a JFrame instance by doing something like this. And I'm just changing some properties of this new instance of JFrame, which is setting the size, the width, and the height of that window. And then I'm doing set default close operation. What does this mean? We'll have a look at when you create something, we have this kind of result, right? With this button over here, this is closed. When you click on it, something should happen. Closing should happen, right? If I click on this one, it just goes down, it goes minimized, and this is maximized. So now this action here, this set default close operation, what does it do? It changed the way the close behaves. So when I click on that X, nothing will happen. But let's just do things gradually. First of all, let's just create a window and see what happens. So what I'm going to do here, I'm just going to let this be whatever it is, and then put a JFrame. So you see JFrame, I press Control Space and make sure that it's Java x.swing. So this is the package Java x.swing. Swing is actually a big package containing a lot of different graphical user interface components. We're going to take a lot of components from there. There are different kind of packages that have different kind of way that components look like. There was before that swing some kind of like a recent one. Before the swing there was, and that's why actually where introduction, this is swing 1, the title of the chapter. Before that it was AWT, Java Abstract Windows Toolkit. That's still available if you'd like to design some user interfaces with AWT. That was the old way to do things. But if you're curious, you can just try to Google that. And then what we would like to have a look at now, just use the JFrame. Notice that NetBeans helped me with the import, and I'm going to this is a window equal new JFrame. So this is, let's make it, this is the basic thing. Now if I'd like to show that window, there's this set visible need to be true. Set visible true means now create this window, instantiate, now make it visible. If I run, that's the minimalistic approach. That is going to tell you, okay, it's trying to run, and then something should happen. It happened actually, but we are not seeing it. Do you see this? This is the new icon for the new application that is running, and you see something like this here. Oh, here it is, because I did not specify the size. So what happened? It comes as the size of almost 0. It was just small. So now that's why I need to change that size. So first of all, notice I clicked on that button to close it, right? Did you notice that it's still running? Do you see here down here? It says that it's still running. That means if I try to run it again, I can't. It's still running. Even the close button was clicked, but the close button does not stop the program. The close button just hides the window, but the program is still running. This is still in the background somewhere hidden, and now I cannot even show it because I just closed it. So my only way now to stop the program is to click on this X button over here. So now I'm clicking on it, it will tell me, are you sure that you want to stop and cancel this run? Yes. Now it stops and I'm able to run it again. So that's why here we were using, the first thing that we did, we set this to be a size that I would like to choose the size of that window, and this is 300 what? 300 pixels. What is a pixel? Is the smallest unit that is showing on the screen. It's the smallest dot on the screen, and this is 1 pixel. Now we'd like to have 300 of them on the width and 200 on the height. So I can just do something, like this. Before doing this visible, I can do some window dot and see there's so many things that I can do. I set size, and you see the size, I have 2 options. And one that is a dimension, which is a different class that I need to use, or the other one which is 2 ints, and that's what I'd like to use, 300 and 200. Now I'm not using the constant the same way, I'm just showing you why later. So now let's run again and see, oh, that's much better. Now it shows, but still the problem with this is still there. So if I click on this thing, it stops showing, but it's still running. Now let's just cancel it again. Very important, if you don't stop it, it will keep running in the background. You cannot run it again, as you can see here. And you can just click on this one. You can see sometimes you have many running, so you can just click on it on this. You click over here. Now this is stopped, and you can just go back and run it again if you want. But before running it, I just would like to do something. Window.set default close operation. So this close operation, there are different values that I can use, and they're all part of JFrame dot, and there's some values that I can do. These are the values: exit on close, which means if I click on it, it will stop the program. It will exit. Or I can do a lot of different other ones. There's some other ones: do nothing, or dispose. Well, there's special cases. Let's just use this exit on close. Sorry.
Some of them are crossed by.
Yeah, when you see this crossed one, normally if there was a Java documentation available, it will tell me why. Whenever you see something that is crossed, that means it was available in the early versions of this class, JFrame, but then it was improved. The class was improved, and the way it worked was changed. And this is what they call it deprecated, if I pronounce it right, which means this is kept for just compatibility. If you designed the program long time ago using this variable, and then when they designed the new version of this class, they design it with a new variable that they're going to use. So they don't use this anymore, they use another one. They kept the old one, so for compatibility reasons, so backwards compatibility, those who are using this old version of the class, the program will still work. But they don't advise you to use this because they prepared some other ones you can use. So, but for us, for now, which means you can use them, but it's better not to. That's the summary of these lines when you see them. It means that you can use them if you want, but it is recommended that you don't. You use the other ones. There are other ways to do the same thing. Same ways goes for some of the methods. We'll see them later. So let's just exit on close, and let's see what's going to happen now. Now, what I'm saying now, when I click on the X button, it should close. And let's run it and see. This is my 300 by 200. If I click it, did you see? It stopped. It stopped the program, and it hit the window first and then stopped the program.
So you can run it again.
So you can run it again without the need of closing it from here. So this is your basic thing. Now, if you don't like these values, you can put more, for example, and then it's going to be of the size that you selected and so on. There's some other there's a lot of different things that you can do. If you can see here, window dot, and then you can see a lot of many things. Some of them again are striked out, which means they are deprecated, which means old versions of something that you don't need to use, you can use some other ways. And you see there's so many methods and so on that you can use. Okay, so now that we have this, we would like to add a button on that window. Add a new component inside that window. We'd like to have something, so a button or a text box or a label, something that we'd like to display. To do some action, for example, yes. So now the thing is, let's go back here. So this is the purpose of this code over here. Now this is going to create a new button that is going to do what? Well, it is going just to create a new button and add it to that window. You see this? Let's just do it step by step. So before showing this, I'm just going to, first of all, have a JButton. Again, by using the control space, NetBeans just imported that JButton. I'm going to name it button, for example, equal new JButton. And then among different things, you can choose an icon if you want, a string, a text, or the action that needs to be done when I click on that button. But let's just take it the smallest, the easiest way, this one, this string. This is my first button. Now, this is declared. If I run it, I don't see it. Where is it? because I just declared it, but I did not attach it to that. I did not say, okay, put it inside this window. I just created a new object of class JButton, but it has no relationship with the JFrame, this JFrame here. So how can I link them? Well, I need to tell that window, we need to add to this window this button that I just instantiated. Now if I run, I have a big button in the middle. It takes the whole thing. Why? Because this is the way it works. Inside this frame, there's only one button, and it takes all what I have. Well, that's fine for me. It's just a button. I can click on it, but it's a big button, too big for me. I can just do something with it. But let's just go back and have a look. So what we did here is just we did the button here, and here we added it. You see, but before added it, they did something else. They did something ending listener, because this is like they call it the end button, and click to end the program. What they wanted to have is something like this. When you click, it will stop the program. Instead of clicking on this X to stop the program, I click on this one to stop the program. That's why what they did. If you look here, sorry, the JFrame here, the operation do nothing on close, which means if I click on the X, nothing should happen. That's what this do nothing will do. Now this do nothing on close, which means if I click here, I click on this, nothing will happen. That's what this do nothing does. And of course I need to stop from here. Now what they did is that they would like to have this this code over here to manage. You see, in this code over here, this is the button here, the one listening to the button action if there's an event that happens. This is of type ending listener. What is ending listener? Is this a class that I can find here? No. This ending listener, nothing will help you because it doesn't exist. So I have to create it myself. Actually, they did create it themselves. If you look at this here, this is the class ending listener that implements. So now we see the interface. So this is an interface, action listener. If you would like to implement a listener, you have to implement this method. And this is what we are going to be doing. Let's create a new class that we call ending listener. And this ending listener is going to implement this action listener, and this is action why is it not helping? Listener public class implements. Now this is just put here, and this action listener should help me. This is the Java AWT event action listener. The AWT is like the old interface. That's what you have here, AWT action listener. And now this is needing me to implement all abstract methods. And among the abstract methods, I have this method action perform that needs an action event, which was also imported. And just for this, for now, we just ignore this. We will use it later, but for now we just ignore it. And just let me just finish. And then what we're going to be doing here is that whenever this is called, it's going just to exit. Means when an action is happening, when we listen for some action, if we click on a button, for example, we're listening to that action. What action should we do? Get out. And maybe just print something stopping the program. Yes?
There is no class action listener.
There's no class action listener? But this is not a class, this is an interface. Action listener is an interface, that's why I'm implementing. Whatever comes after implements is an interface, it's not a class.
You did it.
Which one? The action listener? But it comes by default. The same way that I did not create this JFrame, it comes by default. and I'm very happy that it comes, because if this class was not given, I would have to program it myself. But because I don't want to, they did it, and then I just would like to use it. If I would like to extend it, I can just create my own JFrame and then extend it.
If I want to create something like this, I must stick to the JFrame.
Of course, you have to use a JFrame or any other frame that is provided, or you can download or program yourself. But you need to have a window you need to have a class that tells how to design that window. You see this JFrame, it's a lot of code that comes from different places. It inherits also from a frame, and it implements a lot of different things. And if you'd like to have a look at this is actually a lot of code that's coming from different places. So a frame extends a window extends a container extends a component. So there's a lot of things there. Before you can just display a window, it's a lot of work. So now what we use in this action listener, this is a listener that is going to be listening for something that happens. If it happened, then this is what it should happen. What should happen? Display this, stop in the program, and then stop. So how do I link this to my button? Now I need to create an instance of this this button. They call it button ear or whatever, just to be close to the code. Equal new and the listener. And now, so I created a new instance of this just to be able to use this action perform. So now I'm just going to do this button dot set action. So which action should I use? Is it set action? I think that's the add action listener. It's set action. Add action listener, and it's going to use this. So what does this mean? What am I saying here? Here I'm saying just create a new instance of the end listener that is waiting for some action. When it has some action to do, it will do this. Then this action is associated to the button. Now this button, my first button is to create stop the program. Now this button here, if I click on it, it will just do what? It will execute whatever it's in here. Why? Because I associated this ending listener with the button using this command over here. So let's just summarize. First of all, I created the frame and set some properties to the frame. Then I created a new button and prepared the button. Before I can create the button and add it, I wanted to make ready to prepare the action that needs to go with the button. So this is where the action goes for the button. Now this is what I'm saying, that the action is going to this button. Now I'm adding the button to the window. Now I'm showing the window. So this is all preparation until this to show the result of that. So let's run and see. This is my button. If I click on it, two things happened. It displayed this on the screen, on the output, this thing here, and then it stopped the program with system.exit. You remember system.exit from a long time ago? Yeah.
Can I make the program wait before it's
Yes, of course. You can make it wait for some reason. You can display dialog. Do you really want to close or something? There's a lot of things that we can do, of course. Whatever you see that in different applications that you can do, you can also do it yourself. So, of course, you can do that. Yes. So now, my point is, I just wanted you to, in this first experience with the program that is a graphical user interface, I wanted you to understand some of the few things. First of all, we need to use some classes. There's a lot of different classes that we're going to use them, and we need to learn about different properties of those classes. Like this, for example, set size, set default operation. There's a lot of different things that I can work with. Also, we need to work with the size. If we'd like to change the size, I don't want to add that, but later on we're going to be doing this, working with the size and the position where I'd like this button over here, the other one there, and so on. Then I'm creating every component on its own and I'm adding them together in order for me to have this kind of things. just whenever you have some kind of listener, some action that needs to be done, the action needs to be defined somewhere in a specific place. And I mean, this is where this action is going to be defined. But how can I know that the button is linked to the action? Well, I have to do it myself. I have to do these things now. I'm adding the action listener to adding them together. This is the in summary. Okay, I just would like to mention one very important thing. You need to know this because this is going to be used in the background. Later on, actually, we're not going to be using it directly like this. We're going to be using some tools that allow us to do that. For example, we can create something like a JFrame form. When doing so, let me just show you an example. When doing so, you can use the designer from NetBeans, for example, to do that. When you're going to be putting your labels and putting the buttons and then put in whatever some text fields if you want, and then if something happens, I double click, you see it shows me there's some code what needs to be done. I need to do something, whatever. Let's just display something, whatever. Okay, so now if I run here, I'm just going to run this file because now I have two mains. If I run here the file, I'm going to see actually what I just designed, and if I click on the button, something would happen. But before you can do this, look, before you can just go and use the help from Java, look at the code that is generated. You see this generated code? Check this. I'm sure you will like it. So you see there's a lot of different things. Set default operation, it comes there. There's some of the action performed, but it's put in a place here. See, this is new action listener, that's new. This is an anonymous class. You remember the talk about anonymous classes? Well, this is used here. And this is something that is quite nice to look at with a lot of different things. Something inside something, etc. That's a big statement there. And another one. And this is done for you by NetBeans. But you need to know what's going on in the background. So if you don't like something, you want to go manual, you want to change things, you should be able to. But the more we advance, after we get used to all these tools, we're not going to be designing everything by hand. We're going to use some designers like this, like what they call them, what you see is what you get designer, something like that. And you can see that there's some properties here. I can change something. I'd like to change the color, for example, of that thing. I just need to find the background color, and then I can choose it to some other ones, whatever. And then if I run it, no, this is not the one I want to run. Okay, I need to run this one because now I have two mains. I need to run the file. Now, well, I don't know what I did. Something did not go as planned. This is the background. What did not work? Because banner. I don't understand why, but I'd say this is the background. Normally the background, whatever. Let's just change this to okay, foreground. Something that I'm going to see it. There's some difference, whatever. So you're going to see it, for example, from here. And if I run it, I hope, inshallah, something is nice. Something is going to show. I don't know why the others didn't show. I need to change to look at the details. But my point is, there are a lot of things that we can do, and every one of these components, it has some properties that I can change. It has some events that can happen. And this button, for example, the action performed, or when something happened, a mouse was clicked on top of it, or maybe just a mouse was just entered. If the mouse cursor just enters, this is an event. If the mouse cursor enters here, something should happen. Well, I can do that. I can work with that event. You can do a lot of anything. You can do a lot of calculations. You can make the background change by itself, for example, based on the mouse movement, or maybe based on the time of the day, whatever. You can do a lot of different things. No, you can program it, so you can change automatically, for example. From this, what do you would like to do?
To do some calculation.
No, the calculations are not meant to be here. This is just the design. When you would like to put some calculation, you need to put the code. So you have to come back here and put the code somewhere. So that's the thing. So anyways, I'm just showing you that even if what you see is quite complicated, it will be hard to make a very big user interface using this method manual way. We're not going to be doing very complicated user interfaces using this manual way. We're just going to be learning the basics of the user interface, and then we're going to be moving towards using these tools that will help us design these user interfaces. But I need you to be able to fully understand each part of those lines, because these are going to be generated for you and you should be able to understand them. Okay? So now what I'd like you to do, I'm just going to give you the opportunity to just test this kind of program by just doing something like this. This thing over here. Just a simple application like the one that is presented here, so you can test it. Okay? Well, the one you have the code on the slides, and then you can just type them or have a look at it from the screen here. Okay?